Good afternoon, everybody. Pigskin Pete here. Happy Thursday to everybody. You'll have to excuse me, my voice today. It's I'm sick. That's really all there is to say about it. I've been eating throat lozenges and drinking honey and tea, whatever else you're supposed to do all day long. It's not working. You just have to bear with me. I'm sorry. Anyway, so yesterday I posted an immediate reaction video to the announcement that Paul Johnson, the head coach of Georgia Tech, he announced that he was retiring. And much to my surprise and my gratification, nonetheless, I got a hell of a response from Georgia Tech fans, which surprised me. And this is not a knock on Georgia Tech fans. But I've made several videos, probably half a dozen or more over the past year, about Paul Johnson and my feelings about Paul Johnson and Georgia Tech. I mean, listen, I'll go ahead and just give you a brief synopsis of my feelings about Paul Johnson and Georgia Tech. This is not a new thing. This isn't clickbait. Nothing of the sort. When I had 10 people watching my videos, I had the same opinion, and you can go back and watch that, and it'll prove what I'm saying. I think that Paul Johnson's an asshole. Forget about football for a second. I think he's an asshole. Oh, he's a stoic guy. He demands results. He's misunderstood. No, he's an asshole. Paul Johnson, as far as his time at Georgia Tech, has never done anything wrong in Paul Johnson's eyes. It's always the player's fault. It's always the other coach's fault. It's always somebody's fault other than Paul Johnson. He's an asshole. He's an underachieving asshole, too, at that. I think that Paul Johnson's offense, the triple option, is an embarrassment to the ACC. Because I'm an ACC guy. But believe it or not, if you're a Georgia Tech fan and you came across that video yesterday and you think I hate Georgia Tech, because I got a lot of that, I don't. I don't hate Georgia Tech. As a matter of fact, I would go out on a limb and say that I have higher expectations and hopes for Georgia Tech than you do as a Georgia Tech fan. Because you've been settling for this fool right here for the past 10 years. But the response that I got from some of these Georgia Tech fans actually surprised me. I will give them, I will, before I bash you, which is about to happen for the next probably 8 or 10 minutes, as long as this video is. Excuse me. I will give you credit. Because there's nothing I love more or appreciate more than at least people standing up for their convictions and their beliefs as far as college football. That's what this channel is all about. Standing up for what your team. So I give you credit for that. Kudos for that. But here we go. Now, I don't like to call people. I'm not going to give any names out here. But I mean, listen, I can't sit around all night on my phone or computer typing out paragraphs to answer the comments that I got about this video. So I'm just going to do it here on the air. It's easier. It's easier for me to say it than it is for to type for an hour and a half. Not going to happen. Sorry. I've answered a lot of them. But let's just go through some of the comments here. I won't give names. Although this is a public YouTube channel and you make a public comment on a public YouTube channel, it's for everybody to see. But I'm not going to call you out. If anybody who wants to see the comments, you can just go on and click on the last video and go read the comments if you really want to. Otherwise, you'll have to take my word for it. I'm reading it right off my phone. And by the way, before I do this, I want to give credit to several Georgia Tech fans who actually came out and agreed with me, which was a shocker in itself. And said that they're happy Paul Johnson's gone. They agree with me. They have higher hopes and expectations for Georgia Tech football than what Paul Johnson was able to give them in that offense. So I don't want to go out and say that every single Georgia Tech fan is delusional. There were several, probably 3 or 4 in here that agreed with me and made great points. And they said that they don't like this guy either. They've been waiting for him to get fired. And so this is not aimed at every single Georgia Tech fan, but let's see what we got here. This person says he won the Orange Bowl with that middle school offense. Got to give him props for that. Okay. Props to Paul Johnson for winning the Orange Bowl. What year was that? Was that pre-2010? What was that, 10 years ago? Is that what you're hanging your hat on now? The fact that this guy won one Orange Bowl 10 years ago? Good for you. Good job, Paul Johnson. You did it. You won an Orange Bowl 10 years ago or more. This guy says that the triple option hate, he's talking about the fact that he thinks I hate the triple option. The triple option hate is pathetic, this guy says. Pathetic. Oh, alert there. So let me ask you a question. First of all, I don't hate inanimate objects. And that's what the triple option is not a person for me to hate. It's not a way of thinking for me to hate. It's an outdated offense that nobody uses and nobody wins with at any high level in football across the board. There's only one Power 5 football program for the past 10 years, 11 years, however long Paul Johnson's been stealing money from Georgia Tech, has been running a triple option offense, and that's Georgia Tech. Now listen, there's dozens, if not scores, of schools, universities, smaller universities, service academies, middle schools across the country that run the triple option. Paul Johnson did not invent the triple option, people, and he's not even the best at doing it. The coach at Army is better at running the triple option than Paul Johnson is. But I don't hate the triple option. What I hate is people thinking that the triple option is somehow some innovative type of offense. And we'll get into that in a second. Let me get further into the questions here. This will all come full circle, I promise. Oh, this guy, this is great too. So this guy says, my favorite coach of all time. I love the triple option. It's why I became a Georgia Tech fan. And I will always be a Georgia Tech fan, even though Paul Johnson's gone, says this guy. People who understand the triple option will miss him. Now, where do I start with this? I mean, I don't know what's more pathetic. The fact that this guy became a fan of Georgia Tech because they run the triple option? Or the fact that he said that people who understand the triple option will miss him? You don't have to have an IQ above 45 to understand the triple option. It's not it's not the Pythagorean theorem. It's not the theory of relativity by Einstein. By nature, there's only 3 options in that offense. That's why they call it the triple option. There's a reason you don't see the NFL running triple option plays or offenses. There's a reason you don't see high-level football teams, even in the Power 5 football teams, other than Georgia Tech, running the triple option. It's simple as it gets. There's nothing complex about the triple option. Are you kidding me? Clemson's quarterback, Alabama's quarterback, Georgia's quarterback, Oklahoma's quarterback, UCLA's quarterback. I can name 130 teams that are more innovative in their offenses than Georgia Tech and Paul Johnson is. They have more than 3 options every time they snap the ball. Not even close. They have a dozen. Triple option. A joke. Oh, I love this. These are the comments I love most. Right here. This guy. He takes the cake. I'm going to read you the whole comment. I wonder if this dude was a Clemson fan back when they were mediocre. I get a lot of that. Remember that 2003 loss to Wake Forest? Or the year before when Clemson got blown out by NC State? It's amazing how crazy amounts of funding can do that for a program, huh? Players have bowling alleys, other needless recruiting tools, an over-the-top football complex. Not bashing Clemson as a program, just suggesting that another university's similar financial ideology in the ACC would be competitive, running a middle school offense or not. So first of all, the answer to your question is, if I wonder if this dude was a Clemson fan back when they were mediocre, yes, I was. And guess what I did not do whenever I was a fan of a mediocre Clemson team? I did not run around all over the internet making excuses for a bad coach who can't win. I didn't do that. As a matter of fact, I did the opposite. I didn't like Tommy Bowden. I didn't like him early on. I didn't like him late on. I thought he stayed there way too long. If it were up to me, Tommy Bowden would have been fired a long, long time before he ever was. But it's not up to me. Is there a reason that Georgia Tech fans think so low of their own program? Is there a reason that Georgia Tech fans settle for 7 and 8 wins, one ACC championship every dozen years? And they're okay with that and they defend that? That's sad and pitiful. Like I said before, I care more about your program than you do. Georgia Tech's better than that. Georgia Tech can compete for ACC championships year in and year out if they get this joker out of here and get a real football coach in there who can recruit players. And one of the hottest recruiting beds in all of America in Atlanta, Georgia. I care more about your team than you do. And I get criticized for it, for pointing it out. This guy says, guy or girl, hell, I don't know these days. I'm a Tech fan. What the F do you know? Do you think we could have kept Chan Gailey? Wow, that worked so good for us. Johnson brought us a decade of decency that we haven't seen since the early 90s. This is what Georgia Tech fans have relegated to. Just being a decent team. That's their expectation. I didn't say you shouldn't have hired Paul Johnson ahead of whoever this other loser is that was a loser. But you kept him around for 12 years. Did he have a winning record at Georgia Tech? Yeah. Is that your only expectation, is to be above 500? If that's your only expectation, then you deserve everything that you get. And I hope that Paul Johnson comes out of retirement for another 20 years and leads your program to mediocrity in the ACC and the rest of the country. Because that's what you deserve if you think that way. Oh, this guy says, I'm very uninformed. I'm very uninformed. Right. Coming from a Georgia Tech fan who loves Paul Johnson, I'm very uninformed. That's laughable. Oh, I always love these. I get a lot of these. Anytime I make a video about a team that's irrelevant, which is what Georgia Tech is, let's be honest with ourselves. Even though they shouldn't be, being where they're located, they shouldn't be irrelevant, but they are because of this guy right here. Paul Johnson. This guy comes out with the most clever comment of all of them, and I hear this at least once a week on my YouTube channel, so this is nothing new. But you're a clown, he says. I'm a clown. You're right, sir. Maybe you're right. I am a clown. No matter how much of a clown I am or ever will be, it will not come. It pales in comparison to the clown that Paul Johnson has made your football team out to be. Let's see here. Oh, this is another one. Oh, I love this one. Because this just personifies the entire attitude that Georgia Tech fans that defend Paul Johnson and their football program have towards Clemson. They can't stand to see the fact that there's a Clemson fan that comes on the internet, sitting upstairs in his own house with only a few hundred people watching. They get so triggered by a few hundred people watching. A completely meaningless and pointless Clemson fan trashing their football program. They can't stand it. This is what they say. I love this. Hey, buddy. I'm not your buddy. Tech owns Clemson in the all-time series against Clemson. So he said Clemson twice there. Let me ask you a question, sir. What does that have to do with Paul Johnson? Answer me that. You have no argument about Paul Johnson, so you just come on there and say, we own you all lifetime. Well, guess what? Paul Johnson does not own Clemson lifetime, sir. As a matter of fact, Paul Johnson has a losing record to Clemson, and not only that, he's been getting not only just beat, but embarrassed by Clemson. This is the thing about Paul Johnson that everybody that doesn't follow the ACC very closely needs to understand about the rivalry between Clemson and Georgia Tech, particularly Paul Johnson and Dabo Swinney. The triple option, while it may be hard to defend, as they call it, it's not hard to defend when you have an elite talent on your team. Which is why early on in Dabo Swinney's tenure, when we didn't have elite talent all over the field, we struggled with Georgia Tech every year. But ever since we started recruiting at a high level, out of your backyard, players that possibly could have gone to Georgia Tech came to Clemson and came into your own house and embarrassed you, is because there is no substitution for elite talent against the triple option. This is why the triple option is not run in the NFL, because the NFL is full of players with elite talent. This is why the triple option is not run in the 99.9999999% of Power 5 football programs, because of the talent level. There's only one place where this is accepted, and that is in Atlanta, Georgia, under Paul Johnson. And the reason this guy retired, which I'm not going to pretend like I know why he retired. Okay? I don't know the guy from a hole in the wall. But let's be real. The reason this guy retires is because he's tired of getting embarrassed. And he didn't want to see his winning record, his over 500 record, go down the tube if he stayed another 3 or 4 years. Because that's exactly what was going to happen if he stayed there. He's going to run that program even further into the ground, if that's even possible. Anyway, the video went a lot longer than I expected it to. But if you're a Georgia Tech fan, instead of getting on here and being upset with me for pointing out the obvious points that you probably all really, deep down, a lot of you agree with me on this. I know you do. Take a look in the mirror. Don't look at me as just some arrogant Clemson fan who's, a fan of a team who's been great for the past 7 or 8 years, coming down on your irrelevant program. Look at me the other way. Look at me how I really should be viewed. And the way I should be viewed is as a proponent for your football team. I think that you deserve better. I'm not trashing your team. I'm trashing Paul Johnson. That's who I'm trashing, not Georgia Tech. So before you start writing me nasty notes, which is fine with me, go ahead and do it if you want. You might be featured on the next Pigskin Pete YouTube show if you do that. But before you start doing that, why don't you just take a look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, this guy has a point. We are a joke nationally. And we shouldn't be. We're better than that. Have a great day. Even Tech fans. Pigskin Pete checking out.